Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. Todd Battis is off this week. It's Monday, March the 30th. This is CTV News. Tonight, limited freedom. A convicted drunk driver who killed 4 is granted day passes. Powering change. Utility review panel has a plan to stabilize but not reduce electric rates.
And it's a mix of snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and rain on the way as we head towards April 1st.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. A delay in an assault case against the stepfather of the 2 missing Sullivan children in Nova Scotia today. The lawyer for Daniel Martel requested more time to go through newly disclosed evidence. CTV's Hafsa Arif has the details.
The courthouse doors behind me opened for what was supposed to be a key moment in the case of Daniel Martel, the stepfather of 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan. But instead of a plea, the matter was postponed. His lawyer asked for more time to go through a large volume of evidence, some just handed over in the last few days, which the Crown prosecutor said was provided by the RCMP. No plea was entered and no testimony was heard. Martel did not appear in court. His lawyer attended on his behalf. He is charged with alleged assault, unlawful confinement, and sexual assault. There's a public ban on the identity of the alleged victim.
Burden of proof in a criminal matter is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The evaluation that's conducted by the Crown is to determine whether or not there is a reasonable and realistic prospect of conviction. Obviously, we wouldn't proceed if we didn't feel that there was a reasonable and realistic prospect.
Police insist it's not connected to the children's disappearance. The Sullivan siblings have been missing from their Pictou County home in Lansdowne Station since May 2nd of last year. After intensive searches by RCMP and volunteers and hundreds of tips, the case remains unsolved. Members of the public who are following the case of the missing kids were also present today.
Reasonable prospect of conviction and public interest are significant and real factors that are always in consideration. The level of public interest does not dictate or determine whether or not a prosecution proceeds.
The case has now been pushed to May 4th. No further details were discussed in court. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Pictou County.
PEI Premier Rob Lance says RCMP have now been alerted about a former cabinet minister's possible conflict of interest. Lance removed Gilles Arsenault as an economic development minister over the weekend, saying he'd shown poor judgment when he was environment minister. The next day, Lance suspended Arsenault. An investigation has raised questions about Arsenault's role in a golf course developer's decision to donate $100,000 to a nonprofit group after the minister approved a change for a project. Lance confirming today the person in charge of the nonprofit was Arsenault's campaign manager.
What I want Islanders to know is that my government has attempted to handle this as appropriately and as openly and transparently as we possibly could from the very beginning. Once I was made aware on March 13th about what was known at the time, which is certainly less than I know now, but we engaged an investigator to gather the facts. Once those facts were presented to me in a report, which I believe all of you have, we acted to take the steps we took over the weekend.
Lance says it appears Arsenault did not personally benefit from the transaction in question. The Premier says a deputy minister alerted the Mounties about the investigation's findings on March 13th. Prince Edward Island has lowered the age for colon cancer screening. You can read more about that story on our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. It is likely a good idea to gas up this evening. Prices at the pumps will change in Nova Scotia tonight. The province's energy board says the price of all grades of gas as well as diesel oil will be adjusted at 12:01 a.m. As always, this is due to what's called significant shifts in market prices. Well, after a year of public consultation, the authors of a review on NB Power are promising major changes to come, but not going private. The report was prompted by surging power rates that proved to be too much for some customers. Still, the review's 3-person panel says nobody should be expecting their power rates to go down. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
We're very pleased to offer you our 50 recommendations directed at government and NB Power.
But the panel that was appointed to review NB Power says there is nothing in their recommendations that will make utility rates go down, which is what prompted the review in the first place. Instead, the panel says their recommendations are meant to stabilize NB Power and make future rate increases predictable.
People want stronger performance and cost control, often blaming NB Power for everything.
When the panel was announced by the provincial government, Premier Susan Holt said every option was on the table, including the idea of selling or privatizing the utility. The panel says going that route could make things even more dire for ratepayers.
You will either get a price that is probably not acceptable to New Brunswick's for the value of the assets, or that you'll, on the flip side, privatization require significantly higher rates than are currently the situation. So in both scenarios, that does not seem to be a good outcome.
Within the 50 recommendations, the panel says the provincial government should take over some of the utility's $6 billion debt to cover rate caps and freezes implemented by past provincial governments. On Point Lepreau, the panel says an assessment should begin for an additional large-scale nuclear plant on the site, adding that Point Lepreau should be operationally separated from other NB Power assets, stopping short of saying exactly how that would look.
Relationship between, let me call it, Point Lepreau Nuclear and NB Power should be more contractual than it is governance, if I can say it that way.
Opposition parties offering their initial reactions to the review released this afternoon.
I don't see a whole lot of earth-shattering things here that's going to make anything all that better for ratepayers.
People will be disappointed that it doesn't make strong recommendations that would make their power costs more affordable.
Energy Minister Renee Legacy issued a statement after the review was released, saying the provincial government will act on the recommendations in what he called a timely and transparent way, and that the next steps will be announced by the end of May. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
And later in the broadcast tonight, we'll speak with the new president and CEO of Nova Scotia Power about the issues that the utility is facing with growing debts and cybersecurity as well. One person has died after a helicopter crash in southern New Brunswick over the weekend. The wreckage was discovered just outside of Sussex on Sunday, not far from its intended destination. CTV's Avery McRae is standing by with more on this. Avery, what can you tell us tonight?
Bruce, very little is known about the incident, but we do know the aircraft involved in the accident was a commercially registered R-44 helicopter, and according to the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, was operated by VZ Aviation, Inc. According to officials, it was around 3 in the afternoon Saturday. The helicopter took off from the Fredericton Airport on a visual flight rules trip, meaning the pilot navigates based on what they can see from their cockpit. Just before 7 Saturday evening, around 4 hours later, the Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Halifax contacted RCMP in Sussex about a missing aircraft. A search then began in the area of the helicopter's last known signal. Around 2:30 the following morning, March 29th, the wreckage was found west-northwest of the Sussex Airport, and the pilot, who was the sole occupant, was pronounced dead. New Brunswick RCMP say criminality is not suspected with the crash, and TSB has taken over the investigation. When asked for an update on the investigation, Transportation Safety Board spokesperson Hugo Fontaine tells CTV investigators arrived on site Sunday afternoon to assess the scene and are continuing that site survey today. The pilot's name has not been released. Bruce.
Okay, thank you, Avery. CTV's Avery McRae reporting from St. John tonight. And here's a live look at uptown St. John, where it's currently a comfortable 6 degrees. Good a time as any to get our first look at the forecast on this Monday night. And the temperatures were certainly headed the right way today, but that darn wind was getting you no matter where you were.
Yeah, it really depended on what part of the Maritimes you were at. If you were in one of the coastal areas where the gusty southerly wind today was kind of blowing in off of ocean waters, yeah, you definitely felt a chill in the air. There were some parts of the region, though, some communities that were sheltered a little bit more out of that onshore wind that had a few sunny breaks this afternoon. They did manage to squeak out some high temperatures that made it into range around 10 to 13 degrees. That does include some communities in the west of New Brunswick. Brunswick, as well as a few parts of the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia. Now, throughout the day today, we also had some rounds of some showers that were moving through, and we still have some showers present for this evening. There's one that's continuing to making its way across Cape Breton. That'll be clearing Cape Breton over the next couple of hours, and a scattering of showers through northern areas of New Brunswick. A pretty good chance that one of these drifts into the vicinity of Fredericton here within the hour. But most of the showers around the Maritimes will be coming to an end as we make our way through this evening. And then overnight, partly cloudy conditions expected with cool to chilly temperatures, colder in northern areas of New Brunswick. The showery conditions today brought in by a low pressure system that is now passing to the north of us. There is a second low, however, that I'm keeping track of. This one is a Colorado low, and it's going to extend a weather front that'll make its way across southern Ontario, through southern Quebec and into the Maritimes. It's a warm front, and as that front brings in some warmer air aloft and temperatures stay a little bit colder near the surface, we're going to be seeing a mix of precipitation from it Tuesday into Wednesday. In fact, that mix of precipitation looks like it'll ramp up Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And because in some cases it may be a significant amount of some snow, ice pelts, and freezing rain, we have some special weather statements that have been issued by Environment Canada. The front itself looks like it'll cross the southwest of New Brunswick and then clear western areas of Nova Scotia. So parts of the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, the west of Nova Scotia may end up seeing mostly rain from this weather system. That's why the west of Nova Scotia is not underneath one of those statements right now. Other areas, though, we'll talk more about how much you can expect out of the snow and which areas are at greatest risk of some freezing rain when I come back a little bit later on, Bruce.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Full forecast coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Cape Breton man who lost 4 family members in an impaired driving crash in Quebec back in 2021. He is outraged tonight. The man who caused the crash is getting some freedom to visit family of his own. Here's CTV's Ryan McDonald.
It's been more than 4.5 years since 4 members of David Fletcher's family, his father and sister, along with a niece and nephew, were killed in an impaired driving crash in Beauport, Quebec.
We're down here grieving for the last 4 years. Birthdays, Christmas. We have nothing.
The man who crashed into them that day in September 2021, Eric Legare, was sentenced to 15 years in jail and a 25-year driving ban, one of the stiffest penalties in the province's history for a DUI causing death. Recently, though, he was granted temporary absences from prison to visit family members.
Right here is how I see my family every day. They're home here on a mantle, and we still sit around them and we still talk about old memories and stuff like that. I would give 10 minutes to have with my family.
The Parole Board of Canada says Legare's behavior while in custody and the fact that he has shown some remorse justifies the decision, adding that the risk to reoffend has been assessed as low. Conditions include that he not consume any drugs or alcohol or have any contact with the victim's family.
They told us that they would make an example of this man for killing 4 people, but yet now the same system is slapping me in the face.
Fletcher says the loss and all of the parole board hearings have been the hardest on his mother, who lost her husband, a daughter, and 2 grandchildren that day.
Me and my mother got a life sentence on September 2nd, and it's the same thing every day, Ron. You wake up, first thing on your mind, go to bed, it's the last thing on your mind. Every day.
He says all they can do now is make their voices heard and keep their loved ones' memories alive. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Dominion, Nova Scotia.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Firefighters in Halifax had their hands full yesterday with a sizable structure fire at a strip mall in Bedford. Nobody was injured, but the blaze has forced the shutdown of a number of neighboring businesses. CTV's Vanessa Wright has the latest.
Firefighters tackling an out-of-control blaze early Sunday morning. It happened at this Bedford strip mall in the Hogan Court area, just steps away from a busy residential building. Officials say the fire started at Jet Legend, a sushi restaurant.
A colleague had texted me, and a friend of his had texted him a video of the actual building on fire, and it didn't look like police were here. But so I came over, and there was already like at least 10 police trucks working on the fire.
No one was seriously injured, and officials say a firefighter taken to hospital with minor injuries has since been released. In the aftermath, the sushi restaurant has closed until further notice, as well as the 3 businesses beside it. This physiotherapy clinic just next door was unaffected.
I feel terrible for these other businesses that all 4 of them, the barber and the learning center and the sub shop, they're all, now can't be open and can't work. So I feel relieved for us, but also, equally bad for them.
CTV News reached out to Jet Legend for comment, but did not hear back. There is no timeline as to when all 4 businesses will reopen.
Hopefully be open as soon as possible, because that's how these small businesses, survive, is by being open and generating revenue.
Now, this restaurant is brand new. It hasn't even been open for a month yet. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, Bruce.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. CTV's Vanessa Wright reporting live tonight from Bedford. A maritime hockey icon and trailblazer has died. Bill Riley of Amherst passed away on Saturday. He leaves behind a lifetime of memories on and off the ice, in the NHL, and in both Moncton and his hometown. CTV's Derek Haggett looks back on a remarkable life.
This is where it all began for Bill Riley, the Amherst Stadium.
Well, Bill Riley was, in my opinion, the ultimate hockey player who dealt with a lot of adversity, and the adversity actually was a great motivator for him.
Riley died on Saturday at the age of 75 after a long illness. He was just the 3rd black player in the NHL and the 1st black NHL player from Nova Scotia. Riley suited up with the Washington Capitals and Winnipeg Jets. A banner honoring his on-ice achievements hangs in the rafters, but a longtime friend remembers what he did as a junior coach here in Amherst.
Billy didn't believe that his championship team with the Amherst were properly recognized, so he bought them all championship rings.
Riley was also a big part of Moncton's hockey community, winning the Calder Cup with the New Brunswick Hawks in 1982.
Bill Riley epitomized that era of the American Hockey League. Skilled, gritty character player, throwback player, and what he did for the game of hockey in this region will leave a lasting legacy.
Riley would later go on to be the first ever head coach for the Moncton Wildcats.
And he's going to be forever connected to the city of Moncton and the Maritimes for not only being an amazing hockey player, but an amazing coach in person.
Riley was inducted into the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame in 1998.
He knew he was the first black to play in the NHL from Nova Scotia, and kids all across the province now, no matter their color, they read his legacy, they read his biography, and they know that with hard work they can do it as well.
Family and friends from all over North America are coming to Nova Scotia to say their goodbyes. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Amherst.
Thank you, Derek. Still to come tonight, partly cloudy with a chance of flurries overnight. Kalen's full forecast is coming up. Coming up next, though, the latest from the Middle East.
President Trump says there are serious discussions between the U.S. and Iran, even as he threatens to expand U.S. strikes against Iran. I'm ABC's Karen Travers at the White House. I'll have the latest coming up.
Closure of a bridge near the downtown area in Sussex is a major concern for a group of people who want their voices heard on the issue. CTV's Derek Haggett spoke to some of them over the weekend.
It's been less than 3 weeks since the closure of the Maple Avenue Bridge in Sussex, but many here are getting more and more concerned.
It's detrimental to our safety, it's detrimental to our town, and it's really just a kick in the pants to the taxpayers. So, yeah, we've had enough.
The Department of Transportation closed the bridge on March 10th due to its poor condition. The province says repairs are not feasible and a replacement structure is needed, but there's no timetable for a new bridge.
It shouldn't be this sudden closure and all of a sudden everybody is scrambling to figure out a better way to get into town or to get out of town.
Donna McFarlane has gathered over 1,400 petition signatures urging the province to speed up the project. Traffic and inconvenience, big concerns, but so too are nearby emergency services.
It is a big worry for a big part of the town and the population, so that weighs on everybody in a small community.
Sussex is home to 2 major late summer events, including the Atlantic Balloon Festival. It's hard for some to think what traffic might be like with a major artery closed.
I can't imagine. I'll leave town. We are lucky enough to have a cottage. I'll leave town because I couldn't tolerate that.
The province says they'll do their best to keep people informed of progress.
And these are all hardworking people, and they pay their taxes, and they trust in, the people who make decisions, and I just feel they've been let down. We all have. We need this bridge.
The province says they are considering reopening the bridge to pedestrian traffic once a safe route can be identified. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Sussex, New Brunswick.
Overseas now, there are various diplomatic efforts underway to end the war in Iran. Pakistan's foreign minister says he expects the U.S. and Iran will meet for talks, quote, in the coming days. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest.
Iran's neighbors, including the King of Jordan and the Emir of Qatar, are meeting in Saudi Arabia to discuss the U.S. war with Iran, now entering its 5th week. This as President Trump on social media says the U.S. is currently engaged in serious discussions with the new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran.
When the president says more reasonable, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth. Because they lied to the United States.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Good Morning America saying messages are being relayed through mediators, but wouldn't say who the U.S. is engaging with in Iran.
Well, I'm not going to disclose to you who those people are because it probably would get them in trouble with some other groups of people inside of Iran.
This as the U.S. continues its troop buildup in the Middle East. 3,500 sailors and Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit are now in the region. A 2nd Marine unit is expected to arrive in May. The president not ruling out a ground invasion in Iran. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the president has made it clear to the Iranian regime
their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them.
Photos circulating on social media appear to show one of the U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry aircraft totally destroyed in the aftermath of an Iranian attack on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia last week. U.S. Central Command has not commented on the incident, but a U.S. official confirmed that an E-3 was damaged in a strike on the airbase on March 27th. These surveillance aircraft cost over $250 million. 12 American troops were injured in that attack. The White House continues to say President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in the region. As for the buildup of U.S. troops there, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says there are 2 tracks in this conflict: diplomacy and military force. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Coming up next, an icy mix of weather on the way to close out March and kick off April. Kaylin will have those details when your CTV News at 6 continues after these messages. Okay, here's a live look at Bedeck in Cape Breton, where it's currently 2 degrees and windy as heck. I should say. Oh, a little bit of rain, too.
Yeah, those showers still making their way through parts of Cape Breton. But, yeah, you're right about the winds. They are certainly very gusty today. They've been mostly out of a southerly direction. They're going to change to become easterly for tomorrow, and they'll diminish a little bit, so not quite as windy tomorrow. But, of course, we do still have a mix of precipitation to talk about the forecast.
We do, yeah, for sure. March is not leaving quietly and peacefully.
No, not yet. So let's go to the tail of the tape for this next weather system. And as I talked about earlier, this one is a warm front off of a collar Colorado low. It is going to be bringing us a mix of precipitation into the Maritime region. The timing for it is Tuesday into Wednesday, but the weather is going to intensify Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So there could be some slippery surfaces around for Wednesday in parts of the Maritimes. Snow in the month of April. It's not unusual for the Maritimes. The provincial capitals, Fredericton, Halifax, and Charlottetown, typically average between 16 and 20 centimeters of snow for the month. If you had enough of the snow, though, the averages become much, much lower for the month of May, typically 2 centimeters or less. All right, let's talk more about this weather system. And because it is a warm front, it is going to be bringing us a mix of precipitation areas that are furthest away from the front itself. And in this case, that'll be northern New Brunswick. Well, that's where the snow is most likely, because it basically stays as cold air from where the snowflakes develop all the way down towards the surface. Central and southern areas of New Brunswick, though, Prince Edward Island, the north and east of Nova Scotia, some of this warm air is going to work in aloft, and that's going to be bringing in a mixture of some ice pelts and freezing rain. And then around parts of the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, as well as the west of Nova Scotia, it looks like there'll be enough warm air in place that this is mostly going to be falling as rain. So taking a look at a snowfall outlook for the weather system, the highest potential for 5 to 15 centimeters of snow right up in the north of New Brunswick, Edmundston, Grand Falls, Campbellton, Dalhousie, Bathurst, parts of the Acadian Peninsula, Miramichi about 5 to 10 centimeters there. And then a little bit further towards the south, that's where you're going to see a little bit of snow, but also potentially a prolonged period of some ice pelts and freezing rain moving through Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. And that'd be central southern areas of New Brunswick where these pinks are showing up, parts of Prince Edward Island and into the north and east of Nova Scotia. Then nothing showing up into the west of Nova Scotia and around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick. That's where it'll be mostly rain, potential for 15 to 35 millimeters of rain. I wouldn't expect much in the way of issues with that amount of rain. Taking a look at our timeline then for cloud cover and precipitation. So here's the showers that are still clearing Cape Breton, so they're on their way out. Some scattering of some showers in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island mostly comes to an end by the time we get to around midnight. Overnight, it's partly cloudy, cool to chilly temperatures, cold for the communities in northern New Brunswick. We start the day with some cloud cover around the Maritimes, then moving into the afternoon, the warm front starts to arrive. There's the first of some rain for the west of Nova Scotia. Should be light at first, and some light snow arriving for western areas of New Brunswick. And then heading into Tuesday evening and Tuesday night, the weather system ramps up. And the precipitation rate and the rain and the ice pelts and the freezing rain and the snow kind of picks up into Wednesday morning. And New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, north and east of Nova Scotia, be careful about some slippery spots for the Wednesday morning commute. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight for a good portion of the region will fall to a range around 0 to 6 degrees. We'll be colder than that in the north of New Brunswick, there between -4 and -10. Communities in the north of New Brunswick for tomorrow can expect high temperatures between around -2 and 0, so chilly in a developing northeast wind. And down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, high temperatures mostly 0 to 4 degrees, so 5 in the forecast for Grand Manan. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures between -1 and +1. Maybe some light snow arriving late in the day, but again for PEI, that icy mix of weather really ramping up overnight into Wednesday morning. Late in the day for eastern areas of Nova Scotia, there might be a little bit of snow that starts, and then you get into that icy mix as you move overnight into Wednesday morning. Through northern and central areas of Nova Scotia, a little bit of snow is still possible here, but remember, much of the west of Nova Scotia will warm up enough that it's basically going to be turning over to that rain. And same thing goes into the southwest of the province. High temperatures tomorrow between 6 and 8 degrees. Taking a look at the extended forecast for New Brunswick, coming up near the end of this week, could be a similar system coming in on Friday, which of course will be Good Friday, of course. It will be a warm front, so once again, a mix of precipitation possible with it. There'll be a mix of sun and cloud after that on Saturday. Rain right now in the forecast for Easter Sunday, and then Monday, a mix of sun and cloud. In the extended forecast here for Nova Scotia, we'll get that risk of freezing rain for northern eastern parts of the province, at least through Wednesday morning. And then after that on Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud during the day, some flurries arriving Thursday night. A little bit of a mix of precipitation possible on Friday if that warm front pushes in. It'll be a chance of showers after that on Saturday. Showers in the forecast right now for Sunday, and a chance of showers on Monday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, the forecast, got that icy mix of weather that's going to be around for Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon and evening, there'll be a chance of some patchy, lighter freezing drizzle. A mix of sun and cloud for Thursday. On Friday, Good Friday, wintry mix again possible. Chance of flurries after that on Saturday. Showers in the forecast for Sunday. And then a mix of sun and cloud on Monday of next week. Bruce.
All right, thank you, my friend. Wake up weather still to come at the end of the broadcast. Coming up next, a candid, in-depth conversation with the new president and CEO of Nova Scotia Power. Stay with us.
Okay, so coming up tomorrow, another chance to win a $100 gas card.
Yeah, that'll be right around 7:30.
Plus, you could win a trip to Toronto to see Bruno Mars and $1,000 spending cash.
Well, as March winds down, so too does the first month on the job for Nova Scotia Power's recently appointed president and CEO. Vivek Sood is certainly no stranger to business or Nova Scotia. He grew up in Stellarton, spent most of his working career for the Sobeys group of companies before retiring in 2024. He has won armloads of awards for volunteer efforts and leadership, including Atlantic Business Magazine CEO of the Year back in 2020. His online biography, posted just a few weeks ago, says, quote, "Like you, I am also a customer of Nova Scotia Power, and I'm excited to lead the company as it faces a key moment in its 100-plus year history." And we are delighted to welcome Vivek Sood to the studio tonight. Thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So in the very same bio that I just mentioned, you say getting past the cyber incident and regaining customer trust is job one. How are you doing that?
Yeah, I think rebuilding trust is a big challenge. Trust isn't given, you earn it. What we're doing is making commitments. We've committed that we will address the billing concerns and provide accurate bills. We will ensure that we meet all the obligations under the Privacy Commissioner's obligations, right? Sure. We are going to do these. We're going to make commitments, and we're going to do it.
And all of this began with one click.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's how most cyber events happen. There's been a lot of them. I'm sure you've been familiar with these that have, the frequency.
Sure.
It's called phishing, and it is the primary reason these attacks happen.
So no ransom was ever paid. There's no indication that the information that was accessed has ever been posted or shared or sold.
That's correct.
Okay. When was the last time the company heard from the so-called ransom actor?
That's a great question. They haven't heard from them since the incident actually happened. At that point, things were locked down, and to the best of my knowledge, there's not been any correspondence with this person.
You're confident now the system is secure and this is not going to happen again, at least not the same way?
Absolutely. There's been just a tremendous amount of work in ensuring that, working with independent third parties. SIN numbers as of now have been removed. We have a certification from KPMG as an independent entity looking at that. But we do a lot of testing. We do a lot of education. We have heightened awareness to ensure we do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Did anybody ever explain to you why the company was keeping SIN numbers? I think a lot of us were kind of wondering.
Yeah, SIN numbers were kept in the past for authentication. They're not used anymore. So these were numbers that were in the system from that period of time.
So the company no longer requests SINs and certainly doesn't keep them?
That's right, unless you're needed for tax purposes, employees, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But no, not for authentication.
Okay, you've said, again, just a moment ago, you repeated this, no one will pay for power that they haven't used, and there will be no interest, late fees, risk disconnection because of billing problems until the systems are fixed. Right. How close are you to declaring that all the systems are fixed?
There's been great work done to date, but there's still work to do. We know that the meters have been connected. Yes, I said in my letter, March 31st, we've met that commitment. Now there's work to get the information flowing, so very close. But there will be work then to I guess, get the bills generated and then tie them into the data.
So just to be clear then, the smart meters are once again generating or transmitting that information as they're supposed to?
They were always collecting the information, they weren't transmitting.
Right. So now we fixed that.
That's right.
Okay, so that's another big move there. Have to ask you about rates. The Energy Board, of course, just recently approved the increase, basically the increase you were asking for. What's it going to look like for the average residential household? What will that increase be?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bruce, and I asked the same question. So for a customer that had, let's say, a $180 bill, it would be about $8. And look, I fully realize any increase is a challenge, especially at this point in time where costs are going up everywhere.
Sure.
But that's what the increase will, an approximate of what it will add up to. So our commitment is to keep making investments while we keep rates as low as possible, and that is a commitment that I'm also willing to stand behind.
Reliability, I suppose, is one of the key aspects.
Yeah, reliability is critically important. It is what our customers expect. We've made progress over the past couple of years. We're on a 5-year reliability plan. We've seen improvements, but over that 5 years, we expect a 20% improvement in duration and frequency of outages. So really important work, as well, something that we're passionate about completing.
A couple other things. There's kind of a new aspect to the power business in Nova Scotia. As you know, the government has greenlit some renewable companies here, saying that they will deliver power, I think, to about 60 or 80,000 customers fairly quickly, as a matter of fact. Are you ready to fight to keep your customers, and how will you do that?
Well, our customers are always important to us, and we'll always do our best to meet their expectations. That said, we are supporting the onshore wind projects as well as other projects to bring more diversification to the grid. I think we saw in January where demand was versus supply. We had a couple of cold days where we were, we were working, our plants were operating full out. Our teams were doing a phenomenal job to making sure we had adequate power to meet the supply. And the reality is that demand is just going up and up. So there is a need. We are supporting those wind projects through our own projects like synchronous condensers, which is a big word for a stabilizer to bring on wind-generated power into the grid and things like that. So we're here to support that. We'll do what we can, and those are good projects.
We had finally we had a report today about NB Power next door, and one of the recommendations that came from that was working toward a regional grid. That's something I suppose Nova Scotia Power would be very interested in as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen the report. Always willing to work with others, finding best practices, and see whatever is in the right and the best interests of our customers. We'll always be open to considering, and always open to working with government on these projects that provide benefits.
In your mind, does Nova Scotia Power have an image problem?
Oh, it does. All I can tell you is I've spent the last month, and prior to that, 2 weeks beforehand, I went out to visit our plants, visit our depots, tour the province. I'm going to spend a lot of time listening to customers in all regions, and that's work that's already been happening before me, but I am going to continue it. And we are going to restore trust, and we are going to be transparent. It's really important, and those investments we're making that help us meet customer expectations, we're going to keep making them, and again at the lowest rate possible.
Mr. Sood, we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Vivek Sood is the president and CEO of Nova Scotia Power, wrapping up his first month in the job, and as we heard, a lot of work ahead of him. Stay with us. We'll be right back. In the Lifeline tonight, worrisome findings from a large global study on meningitis deaths. CTV's Amanda Devison has more.
A large new study estimates more than 250,000 people worldwide die from meningitis a year. Children accounted for 1/3 of the deaths, many of which were in Africa. That's according to research published in the journal Lancet Neurology, which described itself as the most comprehensive global assessment of meningitis yet. It comes after meningitis made international headlines when 2 people died during an outbreak believed to have spread at a nightclub in southeast England earlier this month. Meningitis is an inflammation of tissues around the brain and spinal cord caused by infection with a range of different viruses, bacteria, fungi, or parasites. Bacterial infections are more rare and more deadly than viral ones. It was a bacterial infection outbreak in the English county of Kent that prompted more than 10,000 people to get vaccinated in the area over the last 2 weeks. Finally, here's some sweet news for chocolate lovers. New research finds that dark chocolate may have real health benefits. In a study of more than 1,600 adults, higher levels of a natural cocoa compound were linked to signs of slightly slower aging based on a series of DNA tests. Experts say this does not necessarily mean eating chocolate slows aging, but it does add to growing research showing that cocoa compounds can offer positive health effects. Past studies suggest that dark chocolate and cocoa are good for the heart and improve vascular health, including circulation and blood pressure. Other research suggests cocoa may help raise good cholesterol and support brain function and memory, especially as we age. But experts are reminding people chocolate is still a treat. It contains sugar, fat, and lots of calories, so moderation matters. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
Peter, what's a store that's no longer around that you would love to see make a comeback tomorrow at 6?
And win your share of $10,000 with Aaron and Peter's payroll. Just 3 more days to do it.
On the markets today, the Dow ended the day up 49 points. U.S. crude oil settled above $100 a barrel for the first time since 2022. This, of course, is the ongoing conflict in Iran enters its 5th week. BNN Bloomberg's Lindy Biscaya has the latest.
The price of oil continues to climb as, on the flip side, uncertainty drags down the markets. West Texas Intermediate futures rose more than 3% today, the highest since July 2022, and Brent trading even higher. The latest rise in prices comes as Donald Trump is once again threatening attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure. Traders are warning an even bigger energy increase could be on the rise if the conflict does not end soon. And here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to $71.80. West Texas Intermediate is up over $104 a barrel. Western Canadian Select is up to $81.36. And the TSX dropped more than 25 points to finish the day. Those are your business headlines. I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
Thank you, Lindsay. Now we'll head outside to Kaylin on the weather deck for a look at the wake-up.
Yeah, it's damp, it's chilly, and it's still gusty right now. The winds are going to be diminishing as we head through tonight. There's still some scattered showers around parts of the Maritimes. Those should be mostly coming to an end as we make our way through the evening hours. The overnight, mainly partly cloudy. Let's take a look at our view picture for tonight. And this comes in from this past weekend. It's from Wendy Gallant. It was taken at Harbourville in Nova Scotia and features, I mean, you probably noticed this on Sunday, that we did have some flurries that were kind of blowing around parts of the Maritimes. It's one of those flurries there off in the distance, so I want to thank Wendy very much for sharing that. Harbourville for tomorrow, high temperature near 5 degrees. There may be initially a little bit of snow that starts in the afternoon, but then it should be turning over to rain, and for the remaining precipitation out of that weather system Tuesday night into Wednesday morning mostly is rain. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritimes, cloudy periods and a chilly start. Most temperatures low to mid single digits, below 0 in the north of New Brunswick. And then in the afternoon, some light snow arriving in western areas of New Brunswick, and the first of some light rain arriving in the west of Nova Scotia. And then we get into more of a icy mix and a rainy mix as we head through Tuesday night into Wednesday. Let's find out what's coming up on Your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic, celebrating our differences.
April is Neurodiversity Celebration Month, and we'll look at changing how we approach the idea of mental health.
Start your morning with us Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Thank you, ladies. Finally tonight, talk about a bird's eye view. An online video live stream of 2 bald eagles in their nest in Gardner Mines in Cape Breton officially launched today. The Port Morian Wildlife Association, which headed up the project, calls this a first-of-its-kind life cycle educational initiative here in Atlantic Canada. They say the idea is, again, to educate people about these animals, and indeed, people have been checking in on them all day. In case you were wondering, the eagles have been named Bruce and Suji. Guess which one I prefer? The live stream link is on YouTube, and you can find a link to it on our website. Okay, that's the program for this Monday night. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca, updates right around the clock. I'm Bruce Frisco in for Todd Battis, and I will be back with your next newscast at 11:30 tonight. Thank you for watching this one. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you soon.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.